We're live.
Okay, welcome everybody. It's really great to be with everybody today. Today signifies a very important day for the city of Cleveland, for this community, as we take a step forward in fighting housing instability and all of the problems that stem from housing instability. Getting here today has not been a short journey. It has not been an easy journey, but we got here nonetheless. Very grateful to my colleague, Tony Brancatelli, and all my council members, my council colleagues, for really seeing the importance of this initiative to provide counsel to defendants who are facing eviction. And of course, I want to thank Legal Aid for the great work they did in terms of all of the legwork, doing the research, putting together the basis of the program that we could vote on, that we could legislate on, and being subject matters experts in this. And of course, Legal Aid's participation was critical as well. Having an organization of its strength to be able to come through and provide the back office infrastructure, the training, and all of the other elements that go into putting together a good program, United Way has really been tremendous. So I am very hopeful that, as we move forward, we're going to get great results from this and we're going to learn. But most of all, we're going to let people know that are facing eviction, let them know that there is hope, that they do have a friend, that they do have an advocate, and that we as a community recognize housing instability as the problem that it is and all the problems that stem from it. I want to ask my colleague, Councilman Brancatelli, if he wants to add anything before we go to United Way and Legal Aid. Tony?
It's just, it's been great. Who would have predicted we'd been in a situation that we're in today, given where we started with this initiative to what we're facing now. It's more important than ever that we have this kind of support mechanism set up to really protect the interest of our families and really stabilize our housing market and stabilize homes, where it's just so critical that we keep people in place and we really, both in terms of educational as well as outcomes from families. This is just a great day for us to celebrate all the hard work that Legal Aid and has really put into the research and got us to where we are today.
Great, thank you, Tony. And Councilman Brancatelli is kind of our subject matter expert on all things housing and council. So having him involved in this has really been tremendous. But like I said, nothing would have happened without our partners. At this point, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Augie Napoli from United Way to get his comments on this great initiative. Augie?
Great. Thank you, Council President. And thank you, Councilman Brancatelli and all of City Council for leadership, your leadership in bringing this important right to Clevelanders. We're thankful to have your trust and support as we work together with our partners at Legal Aid, at the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, to officially launch Right to Counsel Cleveland today, a day we've prepared for since the legislation passed last October. The launch of Right to Counsel Cleveland comes a little over a week since the moratorium on evictions lifted and could not have come at a better time for Cleveland families. We know evictions have had a devastating impact on academic, health, and economic outcomes and can send families spiraling deeper into poverty and further away from the opportunities they need to live a better life. Right to Counsel Cleveland aims to level the playing field for families facing eviction in housing court by providing free legal representation to tenants with one or more children living at or below the federal poverty line. Right to Counsel Cleveland is about finding meaningful solutions that meet the needs of both tenants and landlords. Given the current local, national crisis and economic downturn caused by COVID-19, we expect a dramatic rise in eviction rates and housing instability for Cleveland families. Before COVID pandemic, out of the 9,000 Cleveland eviction cases each year, 1/3 were eligible for Right to Counsel support. Given COVID-19's crisis, we anticipate that number of eviction filings will increase threefold. While Right to Counsel Cleveland excuse me, provides essential legal counsel, we're also working to connect clients with the additional wraparound resources they need, such as food, shelter, employment assistance, and more through 211 HelpLink, United Way's free, confidential 24/7 service. Throughout the course of this pandemic, we've seen a significant rise in calls to 211 for housing support. Last week alone, we received more than 1,300 calls from individuals and families in Cuyahoga County in need of rental, housing, and eviction assistance. Housing issues are now the number one need for 211 callers living in Cuyahoga County. Right to counsel legislation and our partnership with Legal Aid are major steps forward for Cleveland and for Clevelanders who need eviction support. We are very proud and humbled to work alongside the City Council, President Kelly, Councilman Brancatelli, as well as Colleen Cotter and her team at Legal Aid Society of Cleveland to ensure a more equitable future as possible for all Clevelanders. As we move forward, we continue to seek funding partners for Right to Counsel Cleveland. We also have launched our website today, as a matter of fact, freeevictionhelp.org, for families who need more information. And so it's with pleasure that I turn this over to my colleague and partner and friend, Colleen Cotter, who is the Executive Director of Legal Aid Society of Cleveland and the leader of this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Augie, and thank you, Council President Kelly, Councilman Brancatelli. I'll just add a few comments to those preceding me. First of all, I think it's important for us to remember that this is historic. This is historic. We are the fourth city in the country to establish a right to counsel for tenants. And what that says to me is a few things about our city. It tells me that, one, we have strong leadership. We have strong leadership in the nonprofit community and in city government. We have strong partnerships among those leaders. This could not happen but for all of us working together. We have a strong vision for justice in our community. And we have a strong vision for stability for families. And we understand that it's all connected, that housing is connected to health, it's connected to jobs, it's connected to our economy, it's connected to education. And that we, by putting funds into something like Right to Counsel, we leverage all of the work that we're doing in those other areas. That we are a stronger community by keeping people housed and by ensuring that they have a voice in the justice system, that they have access to justice, that they have the ability to appear in court, have their say, and have their rights defended because they'll have a lawyer by their side. It seems very basic. This should be what every community in the country does, but the reality is every community does not do this, and Cleveland stands out as a leader. And we are committed at Legal Aid to make this program absolutely successful, to provide high quality legal services in partnership with our friends at United Way, to make sure that folks can get on their feet, stay in their house, keep their job, keep their kids in school, and create stronger neighborhoods. Because we want to be the model that other cities turn to around the country to say, you know what, this is practical, it works, it's a good investment of money, and here are the ways you can make it successful. You have that leadership and you have that partnership and you make it work by all pulling together. So thank you again for your leadership at United Way and at the city. And we're really excited to see where this goes and excited to win for families.
Well, thank you, Colleen, and really can't say enough about the great work that Legal Aid did to really provide the basis and the research and all the information that we needed to really move this forward. I mean, legislation, we live in a world of limited bandwidth, and we really needed Legal Aid to do what they did to step forward to make this a cause. And I want to just take a second to thank the Sisters of Charity Foundation as well for their involvement in this. But I just really, I think that this should be a proud moment for all of us. Proud as you can be about the fact that we're dealing with a very difficult problem, and a lot of the hard work remains ahead, and a lot of that's going to fall to Legal Aid and United Way, and then we'll keep doing our part from the legislative end. But at this, I just really want to thank everybody, and I think this is a great day moving forward. I think this is a great day that we really kind of drew a line in the sand that housing instability was not okay anymore, and we are not going to tolerate it. So with that, I will conclude and just see if there's any questions for any of us. If you just hit the hand raise or just start talking. I'm going to unmute everybody. And if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask.
Councilman Kelly, this is Eric Heisig from Cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. You just unmuted me, so I'm assuming you can hear me.
Yes. Yeah. That was,
Yeah. Hey, one of the questions that I wanted to clarify, and I'm not sure, I believe the housing court started resuming their cases on June 15th. So that's what, June 15th to July 1st. Will people that had been have tenants that are defendants in those cases be eligible for counsel under this, or is it really only cases filed on July 1st and after? Because that is a 15-day window.
well, so Colleen, if you could take this, but my understanding is that even if cases were filed, it takes 3 weeks before there's a hearing that's scheduled. So having just opened up, I think that any defendants that come forth, everybody will be represented if they meet the guidelines. But Colleen, can you answer that further?
Well, it's a great question. And I think what it highlights, Eric, is that the reality is that before this legislation becomes effective or became effective, there was a huge gap in our community in terms of people's ability to get representation to defend their rights in court. Folks who have cases that were pending before today, certainly we encourage them to call legal aid, and we are taking on cases. The full, sort of legally, I think reading of the statute, the effective date is for cases filed as of today. But it's not like we turned a switch on and off. We hired a number of staff attorneys to handle these cases. We have volunteers ready. People should call us. And for cases filed before July 1st, we will do our best to represent them. For cases filed after today and later, the right applies. And if folks are living at or below the poverty line and have kids in the household, they qualify.
Thank you for clearing that up. I was unclear on that myself. So,
I appreciate that.
Eric, anything else?
Separate but related, I actually just published a story about CHN starting to take applications as of today for rental assistance. I believe there's a county estimate from last month that says it's about $43 million countywide per month during this pandemic. I didn't know I know you guys have dedicated about 11.3 million of the 19 million from the CARES Act. Is City Council looking at any other ways to maybe bolster that, since 43 million times 3 is about 129 million countywide, and a large part of that would conceivably be in the city of Cleveland?
So if I can jump in a little bit. So what's been going on, we've been advocating both on the state and federal level. We understand that under the CARES Act, this was our first go around. We've been pursuing and lobbying for additional dollars. We know that's not enough dollars for all the different needs that are out there. So we're hoping that the federal government steps up in the CARES Act, and there's been proposals about looking at this next round of funding. So we are looking at and continue to lobby to bring in additional dollars into the system.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Council President, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Please.
I would just add to that the program, we at Legal Aid, we are partnering very closely with CHN. We are actually developing ways to virtually send referrals back and forth so that the tenants that we represent in the Right to Counsel program, almost all of them are going to be eligible for the rental assistance that CHN will be providing through CARES Act money through the city of Cleveland. So we want to leverage that. And one of our goals is to ensure that we collectively are as efficient as possible. So if we are gathering the information, we'll pass it along to CHN so that both the client, the tenant, and the organizations don't have to do the same work twice. I will also say that the rental assistance program, it will be a huge component to the success of Right to Counsel, especially in light of the pandemic. So many people really just need some financial assistance to stay housed, and that combined with a lawyer by their side is going to make the difference.
Did you want to add? I didn't know if anybody cut you off too. I apologize, but
No,
they
it's-
both answered my question very well. So
Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
I think it was well answered, and I was always going to say, of course, we're always looking for more money, more CARES Act funding, but programs like the rental assistance are like Colleen said, critical to the success of the program. Just the defense alone is not going to solve the problem. It's going to be a big step forward in it, and that's why United Way and their participation and their resources are really going to be critical to the success of the program.
Can I add something here, Council President? Eric, I think it seems a statement of the obvious, but the fact is that there is a lot of assistance out there for a lot of these basic needs that exist. One of the major obstacles folks who are living in poverty is their lack of ability to access them. They don't know that they're there. They don't know how to get to them. Now, for sure, this is going to require significant funding. And we believe that of the basic needs, a stable house has such an important impact on a family's life that we're going after this full bore. And I think to put the good name and good work of the United Way behind an effort like this, together with the City of Cleveland and City Council and Legal Aid Society, I think this is a great combination. But to the extent that we can continue to promote and communicate out there to the public that these services exist, and they existed before July 1st, and they'll exist afterwards for all sorts of needs. Folks just need to know where to turn to get that help. Places like 211 Helplink, places like Legal Aid Society can plug in folks to almost all of the services that they might need.
Thanks to all of you. I don't know if I was the only one on here asking questions, but I appreciate it.
All right, anybody
Well,
else?
thank you.
Any other questions for the good of the order?
If I can make a quick point, Council President, and I think Augie expressed it, is that, the PRC funding, there's been other sources previous to this, but having the right to counsel really is, when I talk to landlords, this isn't punitive against landlords, this is helpful to landlords. This gets the help that the families need. As working in the system previously, when I was a CDC director and we managed hundreds of scattered site units, the best advice we can keep telling them is seek help, find help, and point them in the right direction. Putting someone alongside in the legal profession next to someone really is going to help them. What we saw, and as you mentioned earlier, there was a lot of work in the front end going into this. And Legal Aid walked you and I and others through to show the eviction court, showed what was being done in other cities, that this really was very helpful to both the landlords as well as the tenants, that there was a mutual ground of, this is where you are really working with a professional to get the help you need. And whether it's rent relief funds or utility relief funds or some other types of assistance, landlords don't want to evict folks on just because they haven't paid the last month's rent. They want to work with them. They want to feel confident that they're going down the right path. This program is what really helps solidify that help that they're going to need.
Yeah.
And from a very basic, the most basic standpoint, it's like, it's a matter of fairness. You're talking about somebody's, the roof over their head. You're talking about where they raise their kids, where they report home. How can we as a community be comfortable when 90% of them show up in housing court unrepresented or don't show up at all just because they're intimidated by the legal system, or they don't think that they have an advocate or anybody on their side. I think this is just a basic matter of fairness in our community. And I think it's a big step forward, and it's going to stabilize the housing situation in our neighborhood. And just as has been said before, just couldn't have come at a better time. We couldn't have predicted COVID-19, but it's amongst us, and it has exacerbated the problem. So this is really going to be a bigger challenge going forward, but it's one that we absolutely have to rise to.
Well, and I would just add to that I absolutely agree that a large number of the cases that we'll handle through this program will be cases we'll be able to settle because landlords don't want to evict. They want rent, and the tenant has not been able to pay because of COVID and other reasons. But there will be a percentage of cases where we have bad actor landlords, where we have housing that is not habitable, where we have housing that has lead, where children are being poisoned from lead. And so legal aid will be there to also enforce the city laws, state laws about housing and hold landlords accountable, while at the same time counsel our clients, tenants, about their responsibilities and ensure that they're following their responsibilities. Over time, we hope at Legal Aid, and we believe this to be true, that not only will we prevent evictions, we will also increase the standard of the housing in the city of Cleveland, which is it's good for the city of Cleveland. And it's a good fit with the lead legislation that City Council passed last year, where we will soon, in a couple of years, have created a lead safe Cleveland. But in order to do that, you also have to keep tenants safe from retaliation. So legal aid isn't the only, what legal aid will do in right to counsel isn't the only answer to keeping people housed, keeping people in their homes. And I applaud you, Council President, for using the word home. I think when we say housing, it sounds so cold. This is about people's homes, as you articulated. So we will keep people in their homes, but we also will change the landscape so that people aren't threatened with unlawful evictions and have better housing, which is good for all of us.
And we're going to find that the issues that folks are facing in their inability to pay their rent are way beyond just not having the money. They have other issues. Then they have not plugged themselves into the social service network that's out there, the safety net that's there for them. That's the better utilization of all of this. And I think, again, that gets to speaking to understanding the comprehensiveness of their needs and plugging them into the services that already exist to support those needs so that they don't fall into these traps going forward.
All right. Well, just a trip down memory lane for those of us involved. We were on a panel at the City Club, sometime this time last summer. And I remember discussing it, and we had some guests from New York that are here. And I intentionally said enough that I knew we had to do this, but I had no idea how we were going to get here. But I just made enough commitment that it's like, okay, now I said it. Now we've got to do it. So I'm happy that we were able to get to the finish line and put this program together and keep people in their homes and keep our neighborhood stable.
Thank you.
All right. So if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I will sign off. Anything else going once?
You're not going to make that one more fundraising plea there, Augie? Come on. Get
Well,
some
I
other people
could.
to step up.
I could. There's still time.
Say only one. Wow.
1331 Euclid Avenue, United Way of Greater Cleveland. Just put on RTCC, right to Council Cleveland on the check, and we're there. We're good for it. You will be hearing a lot about that going forward. Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate the plug.
On a fundraising side, the council president and I always have a friendly wager for the Pierogi Dash. And so each one of us gets to pick our favorite charity for making that donation. Sadly, I have to say I've lost the last 10 years. I've never won a race against him in a Pierogi Dash, but I think if I'm going to dedicate a charity, it's going to be to Right to Counsel. I don't think he's going to beat me this year. I guarantee I will finish first, but that's
Excellent. Excellent.
I would pick my charity and it would be Right to Counsel, but I don't need to because it'll be Tony's money. All right, well, signing off. Thanks everybody for everything. And, it's been a long way, and a long road getting here. And it's in a lot of ways, it's just the very beginning as well. So looking forward to, being on this journey together for a long time. So thanks, everybody.
Right.
Thank
Happy
you.
4th of July.
Yes, happy 4th.
Yeah. Bye-bye.